Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Roland. Today I want to talk about duty. The question you often see around this time of the year, Father's Day is coming up very soon. You see the question, what is a father? And you see different answers in poems and so on and so forth. Well, I'll tell you what a father is. You know what a father is? A father is someone who does his duty. That's what a father is. So let's see if I can break this down just a little bit for you. Father is a very special station in life. In the eyes of a child, the father stands in for God. Okay? Now, you remember in the Garden of Eden, Adam fell. What happened was he was ambitious. He wanted to do it on his own, with knowledge. He thought knowledge would help him to do it on his own, without God. And you see that's what just about the whole world is doing, right? That's the whole idea nowadays that somehow mankind or humankind can solve its own problems. And so you have technology and all kinds of knowledge, and universities and schools, and education is held up on a pedestal, But those of you who've been through education, who've spent years and years in dusty classrooms and spent thousands of dollars to have a shingle hanging on your wall, a piece of paper hanging on your wall, you know it doesn't bring happiness, doesn't bring fulfillment. See, you know that. That doesn't mean that education is I enjoy studying. When I say studying, I mean enjoying discovering about trigonometry and calculus, for example, physics. But it's fun for me. It's a discovery process. I don't go sit in classrooms. I learn on my own. But here's the thing. We're talking about Father. Father has a special role, and he's supposed to do his duty. There's a famous line. I forget who said it, but the line was, England expects every man to do his duty. England expects every man to do his duty. Well, that's what's expected of a father. You do your duty. See, marriage is not supposed to be a pleasure party. This whole idea of getting your needs met is just pure selfishness. Okay? Father has a job. Okay? He stands for what's right. He represents what's right. In the eyes of a child, Father represents God. Okay? So he can have no vices. He can't be smoking marijuana, drinking, gambling, playing the lottery, looking at improper things, wasting money on little vanities, for clothing vanities, and he won't do it. He saves money. He lives properly, frugally, modestly, and he stands for what's right. That's his job. So so the idea of divorce goes out the window. What's a divorce for? It's selfish. So he can have selfish pleasure or selfish needs met. See, his job is to be there for his wife and his children. See, never mind how hard a time she gives him. His job is to be there through thick and thin, for better or worse. See, a man stands for principle. Let's talk about principle. What's the difference between the United States and other countries, although the United States is falling? Let's say between the way the United States once was and still is just a little bit, which is pretty good. See, it doesn't take a lot of goodness to make a big difference, just like Father. You remember when you were a child. If Father did something good or right, he stood for something, okay? Or he had a twinkle in his eye and a light touch. See? Or he protected you. See? Or he went with you to the prom. See, it's just a little something. I heard last night on the radio I don't know if this is a true story or an apocryphal one, but it's probably true. The boy was required to make he was just a little kid, but he was required to make a journal. I don't know if he was a teen, maybe, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I don't know. But he was supposed to make a journal for school, what, to practice writing. So every day he would write down some thoughts for the day. Well, one day his father took him fishing, and they spent the whole day fishing, okay, out on the lake with his father fishing. And they didn't catch any fish. So his father came home and said, "Boy, it's the worst fishing day we've ever had," he said. But then he was walking by his son's room, and he noticed a journal sitting there, and it was open. So he went and took a peek at the journal. It was the entry for that day. And the journal said, "My father and I spent the whole day fishing. It was the best day of my life." See? Now a lot of you have blown it. You divorced your wife. You went off, selfishly. You weren't there for your kids, or maybe you were there. Maybe you never divorced. You were there, but you were you weren't there for them emotionally. You just sat around. You thought you could leave mom in charge of everything, and all you had to do was sit in the living room, bring home a paycheck, and then sit in the living room and watch sports, and maybe on the weekend, barbecue something. You thought that was enough. See? And so there's communication with your kids is not good. You blew it. So it's very painful. Okay? It's very painful. But that's reality. Okay? And most men will just go off and continue to be selfish. See? Find some new woman that's worse than the one they had before. And they'll be selfish, and you know how it goes. But some men will realize their error and regret it very much. Okay? And it's possible. See, so how does that harm you? So what's the harm to your children now? See, I always tell kids, adult children of parents that were not so good, which most parents are not so good. Okay? Some parents are rotten. A lot of them are, especially nowadays, because a lot of people today are selfish. See? Very selfish. So I always tell the adult kids, I said, don't resent your parents, don't resent your mom, and don't resent your dad. Okay? They blew it, okay? They weren't there for you. You needed something from them and they didn't have it. Your father didn't have it. Okay? So forgive him. Let it go. Okay? It's very important. So if your children forgive you for your acts of commission or omission, that's good for them. It's good for them. If they don't forgive you and they continue to hold resentment against you, it's bad for them. Then they will be, because they hang on to the resentment, then they will have to pass on the legacy to their children, the legacy of a failing father, fierce mother, father not being there for them and resenting the father, and so on. That'll be the legacy. But if they forgive you, if they let go of their resentment towards you and their grudge towards you, then they will be free to be a good father or a good mother themselves, you see. So all you can do if you blew it, all you can do is hope that they will communicate with you. You can't chase after them. See, you can't force yourself on them. You just have to let them go. But if there's a little opening where they come to communicate with you somehow, then you have to listen to what they have to say. And listen quietly. And don't argue with them. When they tell you that you weren't there for them, that you weren't there on their birthday, that somehow you failed them, that the world was too much. The peer pressure, the school pressure, the ambition pressure, the drug pressure, the academic pressure, the sports pressure. See? And your job was to be stronger, to protect them from the pressure, and to be stronger than the world, and stand for something much more noble. And you failed, okay? And your wife resented you undoubtedly. Okay, so that's the story. So now, but let's continue with the story of what a man is. He stands for principle. And I began to say the difference between America and other countries is, for example, you go down to Mexico. I've never been to Mexico, but you hear about Mexico. But Mexican people are very nice people. Okay, one of my best friends when I was in Chicago was from Mexico. See, I love the Mexican people. They're good people, most of them. Not all of them, of course. They're like anybody else, but there's some good qualities about them. Family. They tend to be. They acknowledge God. Okay. Well, that's good. But how about their country? Corruption, terrible corruption. What's that all about? Well, it's a weakness of the people. See, you get the kind of government you deserve. So the people weren't committed enough to and the country wasn't founded upon principles. See, the United States was founded upon principles. And so we have a nation of law. See, at the very top you have God. Okay, and we are to acknowledge God, worship God, and we should pay attention to what we know in our heart. See, he communicates with us by way of our intuition, which is conscience. When you don't follow your intuition, it becomes 20/20 hindsight and feels like conscience. But that's his light within, his light. And so if you look into your heart, you know it's right. When you were a little tiny child, when you were 3 years old, if someone was unfair, you saw the unfairness. See, even then, as a little tiny child, you knew in your heart what was right. If you saw some injustice, you saw it. If one kid got more French fries than the other one, you saw it as an injustice. See, who taught you about injustice? No one. You didn't learn it in school. You just knew it. Okay? Well, we all have intuition from God, so you kind of know what's right. So for Father, what's right? To be honorable, to be steadfast, to be patient, to persevere, to have long suffering, okay? To have honor, to stand for what's right and validate on the outside what your children know inside is right. See, in their hearts they know what's right, and your job is to validate on the outside what they know is right on the inside. See, so you stand for principles. So America was built upon fidelity to God and principles, and then from principles, the next level you have are laws. Laws built upon those principles. Okay? Like the Ten Commandments, for example. See, laws built upon those. Well, so we had a beautiful government designed, and the laws built upon principles. So now if you obey the laws, if you signal when you're going to change lanes or turn, if you make a complete stop at the stop sign, okay? If you don't speed, you go by the proper speed limit. See, if you obey the laws, why do you obey them? Because you see that they're right. See, there's two ways to obey a law. One way to obey a law is because you don't want to get caught or fined or get a ticket. The other reason to obey the law, or to obey the traffic light, for example, is because you see that it's right to do so. You see that it's wise to do so. It's good for everyone to obey those laws. Okay? So that's why you do it. Well, so now you see what laws are, principles are. So Father recognizes that those principles are higher than him. He honors the principle. See, despite whatever loss. So if there's a chance to do the right thing or to cheat someone a little bit, he does the right thing. He loses selfish advantage. See, if there's a chance to do something naughty with some other lady, okay, he doesn't do it because it violates what he knows in his heart is right. Violates principle. See. So So Father has faithfulness to principles. He honors them because he recognizes they're from God. And that's what God expects. Every man to do his duty. See? To obey the basic principles and obey the basic laws. See? It's very simple. So he makes doing right more important than anything else. Okay? He makes what is right more important than anything else. Which means doing what's right, or at least standing for what's right. Or it also can mean not doing wrong. See? A lot of times going the right way is not going the wrong way. So if everybody else is playing the lottery or gambling, or everybody else is getting all emotional and getting carried away and screaming or getting angry, or see, he remains calm. He doesn't go that way. See? So when you remain close to when you honor those principles because you love them, okay? You love them. Then you are very close to what's right. And if you go just a little bit beyond that, and you are always checking with your conscience, checking with your intuition to see what's right, then you're very close to what's right. And then you know what? You will see in those moments when, there's a line drawn in the sand, then you'll know what is right. See, you'll know. A lot of times as we go about life, there's not these lines drawn in the sand. Okay? But even so, even if you're just going about your regular daily activities, you still you live modestly, you live decently, you live with a certain honor and decorum and gracefulness, and you don't tell naughty jokes and laugh at filthy things, and you don't gossip. Okay? And if other people are gossiping, you don't go along. And if someone tells a bad joke, a naughty joke, an improper joke, if someone tells an improper joke, you don't laugh. You don't sheepishly go along with it or laugh at it. You just stand there and look at them and let them have egg on their face. Okay? So you see what Father's job is? So what I was going to say, if you're very close to what you know in your heart, then you will have wisdom. When you do what is right in those delicate moments, you will act with wisdom. You will act with wisdom, and you will act with grace. Okay? And so you will have an invisible means of support. You won't need anger. See, anger is just a compensation. It's an animal emotion. You won't need anger. If you have to stand for something, if you say to the kids, no, you can't go out after midnight. No, you can't go out with those people. See? Well, you have a twinkle in your eye, but you are resolute. See, and firm. Why? Because you see deeply, and you don't doubt it. You just see deeply that it's not good for them to go out after midnight with those people. So they stay. So there's nothing else other than that. There's no argument. See, you just see it. That's all. It's clear. So most things like that are just clear. Okay. So you are close to. So now, when you're close to intuition, you are close to the source of wisdom. Okay? And you honor that, and you listen to it, and you love it, and you obey it, and you live it. And you know what? When it's all said and done, you will have done your duty. That's what you say. I've done my duty. See, don't look for approval from other people. Don't look for your wife's support. Don't look for anyone's support or anyone's approval. Just do what you see is right. Do what you see is wise, regardless of what others say. Okay? Because if you get support from other people, all it will do is weaken you. Okay? And if someone praises you when you do the right thing, well, let it go in one ear and out the other. Don't resent it. Just say thank you very much, but don't take it Don't get puffed up by praise. Okay? So you will have done your duty. How many times? There's a beautiful story in, it was one of these magazines that you see at the newsstand at the supermarket. And it was a story of a policeman who, this policeman is now going to attend the graduation, I think the college graduation of a young lady who many years ago, when she was a little girl, I don't know, 5 years old, I don't know, she was in a burning building. And the firemen were bringing a lot of people out of the burning building. There weren't any ambulances there yet, or there was one or two, and they were already gone, taking someone else away. So the firemen were bringing people out, and the policeman was standing outside. He arrived at the scene to see if he could help, and one of the firemen was carrying out this little girl, and he put this little girl in the arms of the policeman. So the policeman held her like this, and then the fireman went back into the building to go rescue someone else. So the policeman looked at this little girl, and she wasn't breathing. Okay, so he started to administer resuscitation, and there was no ambulance. So then in the back seat of the police car, while another policeman was driving to the hospital, he continued to assist her to breathe, to keep breathing until they got to the hospital. And then at the hospital, they got her, and then she was near death, but they were able to bring her back to life. Okay? And this little girl, you can imagine how she loves this policeman. Okay? Well, I guess they've kept in touch a little bit over the years. Well, here's the thing. They asked him, about it. He said, we all did our duty. The firemen did their duty. I did my duty. And the staff of the hospital did their duty. Everyone did their duty. See? Well, that's what you must do, Father. See, marriage is not for pleasure, for fun. Okay? The purpose of marriage is to work out the ancient thing between men and women that began in the Garden of Eden, okay? And to develop character and to learn to be unselfish. That's the purpose of marriage, okay? And if you do your duty, you're always there. See, through thick and thin. Even if your wife gives you a hard time. If she gives you a hard time, well, first of all, if there's a legitimate reason for her to give you a hard time, because you're not doing your duty in some respect, for example, well, then you deserve it, and you should listen to her. She's right. On the other hand, if she's just angry at you because you're a man, see, undoubtedly her father wasn't there for her. And she's probably been abused by men, boyfriends. See, nobody had true love for her. So your job is to have true love for her, to be patient and long-suffering, and to be there through thick and thin. So if she gives you a hard time, see, for no reason, well, then you just bear the suffering, that's all. But you don't divorce her or leave. You stay there. And especially if you have kids. See, if you have a good wife, well, that's good. Then don't take it to heart and think that you're this great something or other, and then become selfish and lazy and a slob. See? Continue to do your duty and be grateful that you have a good wife. If she's hell on wheels, okay, she undoubtedly she was hurt in the past. And your job now is to have the love for her that no one else has had. So if she gives you so if she hates you, you don't hate her. If she's mean or angry at you, then you're not mean or angry at her. See, you're always steadfast. And your children will see that. See? Because, you see, your children will be okay because Father is okay. How many times have I heard this? You hear this all the time. Kids talking about mom. Let's say mom was too much. She was a pill, or she was screaming and yelling, or she was hated dad, or she was making trouble, or something like that. But you know what they always say, the kids? They always say, oh, that's just mom. That's the way she is. That's mom. Okay? But if dad fails, the whole family suffers. See? Father mustn't fail. You mustn't fail. And if you have failed, then you have to learn how not to fail. And learn to fail less, and less, and less, and less. So you can get better instead of worse. And if you don't know, if you don't know how to be a good father, well, then that's why you've got to cry out to your Creator. Don't cry out to the world, to other people, to experts. See? Cry out to your Creator, to your Father, your Heavenly Father. So and ask for wisdom. Okay? Then when it's all done, your family will love you. People will respect you. Your family will love you. And maybe God will say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. My name is Roland.